I want one of those chairs.
Go grab one.
Get the VIP seating tonight, no extra charge.
There were some older.
Okay, we've announced
So
the
like,
next case.
zooming in on the screen.
Mr. Holbert, if you want to bring us up to date, but before you do, I just want to make a few comments. Obviously, we have a very large
So you want it
crowd
on the
for
video?
this one zoning matter this evening. Just some ground rules. Mr. Holbert is going to give us an update on the application that's been filed. The applicant is then going to make any additional comments or presentation that they wish to make. We may have a couple of comments from the applicant when they're making their presentation, but when they're finished, we will open it up to the audience. Everyone has an opportunity to speak. However, if you are simply repeating something that somebody else has said, we will know what the comment is and what the thoughts are, that we don't have to have 30 people repeating the same thought process. If there's a designated speaker for the group, we would prefer that designated speaker or speakers make the presentation for a group, because I know that as late this afternoon, almost 5:30, we got some additional updated emails, so it appears that there is some organized process among the homeowners association within Sturbridge. So, if you could, designate someone to be the speaker, that would be the preferred way to go, but we're not going to deny anyone the opportunity to speak. So we want to move things along. With that, Mr. Holbert, if you would bring us an update.
Yes, sir. So this is case number 2019-08Z and 2019-09MA, Scott Street Partners 2. The request is for a zone change and a major adjustment to an existing PUD. Again, the applicant is Scott Street Partners. Location, now in this case, not every parcel had an address. So what staff did is we listed it as the parcel ID numbers. So in this case, the 600, 094, 001, and 002, 600, 0092, 46, and 298, and 45, and 48. Those are all on Kugler Mill Road. The North Creek parcel IDs are 600, 0092, 0332, and 0333, 0335, and 0336. The proposed use is medical office building, also a parking garage, and residential lots. The proposed use is 110,980 square feet, 4-story office building, in addition to a 2-story parking garage and single-family residential lots. Side characteristics, the size. Now, I broke those down into each specific area. So we have the existing PUD, which is a 00 district of 8.3836 acres. The proposed acreage along Kugler Mill, those sites are a total of 3.8906 acres, and then the proposed area to be reclassified from B to 00 is 1.5326 acres of the 3.8906 acres. The frontage along Kugler Mill is about 765 feet. The frontage along East Galbraith Road is about 237 feet. The topography is sloping northwest to southeast. The proposed ISR is 0.7 per the engineered record. The current ISR is 0.68 per the previous approval of this development. This is an overview of the surrounding areas, not only including the 00 district, which we see here, but also multifamily, e-retail, residential, and then this would be the Madeira section. A close-up view shows you the site in question, the 00 district. This is the residential district that they're looking to do a lot split to consolidate that with the 00. And again, you have EE to the south, a little bit of 00 also to the west, and then multifamily to the northwest. The previous approved plan, this was the approval of the larger building. This building was about 114,000 square feet. with a two-story garage, and then this is the existing building. So that site, as it exists, was about 8.36 acres. So this was the approval, which shows boundary buffer on each side, in addition to some additional boundary buffer up here, and then they also provided a a streetscape buffer along Galbraith Road, in addition to signage for the development. An overview of the lots, basically just giving you a bird's eye view. This is what the development is today. So basically we have the existing building, about 114,000 square feet. We have the Hauser building, the two-story garage, and then the surface parking lot, and then the residential lots to the northeast. And then up here is Kugler Mill Road. The proposed zone change parcels, basically taking these lots here, the 3.8 acres, and then splitting those and looking at this zone change, adding part of this, which about 100 feet in depth, perpendicular to Kugler Mill Road, and then the proposal is to add that to the existing PUD. The existing PUD, which are looking at receiving a major adjustment, would be taking all of that 8-point-something acres and then adding it to that split of the residential. And basically that's what they're showing here. So they've included a site plan to show how each one of the lots in the PUD is broken down. So each one of these are a separate parcel. Here's the area that they're looking at adding to that PUD. This dimension is about 103 feet, and then it gets a little more narrow as we go to this area. This area up here is somewhere around 140 feet deep, approximately. So the proposal, this is the proposed building, increasing the parking lot, again showing a consolidation of those residential parcels if approved for a zone change, and then combining that, adding an additional landscaping, which is, let's see. Well, I won't go into the landscaping yet. So going from the proposal with tree islands, parking right along this area, and then as much parking they can have here, and then actually putting parking underneath a single story of garage parking here, and then a two-story, removing the existing multi-story Hauser building here and putting in a two-story parking garage. The lighting, now, the applicant did reach out to staff, and there were some questions in regards to the review. And part of that review is when you have a PUD and you modify it, anything that you bring into that PUD now has to, the whole site has to comply. So there were some questions about how I came up with these numbers. Well, that's how it is. I'm looking at the whole site, and the whole site wasn't really submitted as part of this approval. So when I look at landscape buffering, I don't have the whole numbers. They said they'd be happy to go and evaluate the whole site. But this time, most of my staff remarks deal with that, deal with not having the whole site, not having all the information for the whole site. Basically what I have is the information pertaining to just this building and the parking. So when I look at the lighting, for example, since this is a lot split, there's a different lot here from here, all these numbers, they exceed the limit. We don't have anything in our code that exempts that. So while you look at one office building to the next building, we don't have anything in our code that says you can exceed that 0.5. Even though it's a common sense approach, if one building has 5-foot candles and you put in a new parking lot right next to it, you're going to have that light shed over into the existing parking lot and the proposed parking lot. So again, our code doesn't address it now. We're going to look at addressing that with the revisions. Also, there was just one small area down here that was a little bit over, and the applicant said they would address that also. As far as the landscaping plan, so when I looked at the classifications, and that's where your buffering comes into play. So when you're looking at a class 4 versus a class 1 is going to be residential, class 4 is going to be your office building where you have a very dense area. Well, we want to keep that separated, so we require more buffering. So instead of 3 trees, for example, we might require 7 trees when you're putting an office next to a residential district. In this case, when I did the review, since this is going against residential, this is also residential. This area along Interstate 71 is classified as residential. Those buffers tend to be a little higher. In this case, it was an A plus 40. Well, A plus 40, A could be a minimum of a 10, so that gives you a 50-foot buffer requirements. So again, when I did the review of this buffering, it didn't meet. Okay? As far as the interior requirements, they do have significant amount of tree islands. Basically, these areas here to kind of break up the parking lot so we don't have a sea of asphalt. And they did the same thing over here with this previous building. So they were capable of coming up with an interior landscaping which really broke up the parking lot. Okay, so now we have the proposal. So this is the rendering that was submitted showing you perspectives, not only for the east, but also for the west and the south and the north elevation. So here's the area where they're actually going in underneath for 1 level of parking below grade. As you can see, they've added the tree island areas, so they broke this up between the pavement. They've got tree islands here, again, to break up everything, which is what our code requires. As you get to the elevations themselves, as far as the mechanical units that they have rooftop, they did define that as being screened. So as far as anything on the ground, it wasn't indicated, but the applicants here, they will be able to address that. They do show 4 stories, which was approved with the previous development, and it's actually lower than the previous building that was approved. These are just 2 more elevations. I think it's the east and the south, yeah. So we have the east elevation on the upper, and we have the south elevation on the lower. As far as the typical floor plan, this is what was submitted. So basically, since it's an office, they will build the interior as they need for their tenant. The garage, again, this is similar to the previous garage that was approved with the previous office building. Basically, it's just a 2-level garage. It's identical to the previous garage that was approved. And then here's the basic layout of the garage itself. Basically just showing the parking stalls. Each space here is indicated as a parking stall. That's all I have. Any questions?
Okay. Mr. Reese, have any questions for Mr. Holt?
No.
Mr. Reese?
No.
Ms. Lanning?
No.
Mr. Barry? Okay, where do I? If anyone is here from the applicant, if you would come up to the table by the microphone, give us your name and affiliation and any comments that you wish to make.
Sure. My name is Randy Merrill. I'm an architect with McGill-Smith Punching. And we got the comments back from Harry on Friday. We told you to address as many as we possibly could. I think most of them, in talking to Harry, they're very easy to accommodate. I don't think there's anything there that would be asking for a variance. I think we've also worked many times with the residents, some representatives from the residents, from staff, and from the trustees. We had many meetings with them trying to determine what a reasonable solution to their concerns would be. We did leave a large strip of residential as a part of this solution. Part of the other aspect in talking to Harry is provided the correct buffer distance, and then we think we can do that with an easement on the residential property, which is currently owned by the developer. I don't know of any other strong concerns that as I've gone through the comments. There's really nothing else there that I would have any concerns about meeting.
Okay. Mr. Reese, do you have any questions? Yeah.
No.
Mr. Roos? Ms. Lanning?
No.
Mr. Barry?
No.
Mr. Merrill, the new garage that you're proposing, the two-level garage? Are both levels above grade, or is any one of that below grade?
The lowest level, which will be connected to the other garage, will be down a level by about 11 feet from the surface parking on the other side. So basically, there's two levels that are not connected. So you'll have to access one from the lower level garage of the existing garage, and then you'll have access the other one from grade.
And there is no, or is there, an exit that's proposed from, I'll call it, the rear of the property closest to Kugler Mill? Are the lots that are along Kugler Mill that you're proposing splitting, are there any existing houses that are going to stay there? Anything planned for those residential parcels?
Not at this point. We try to keep it as residential as was requested. And in terms of how that gets developed, again, I think the key there was to maintain the residential zoning for it. So, we do not have any intentions of developing any further than that, except for maybe talking about some buffering, some other things that we might be able to do.
Okay.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
The landscaping that you're planning on, the buffering that you're planning on putting behind this big building, I mean, how tall is it gonna be? It's gonna hide it? It's not gonna hide four stories probably.
The way it is now, it's not, but if what we'd rather do is provide a much healthier berm and closer to Cougar Mill. And that would provide enough buffering and height to actually shield it from normal view from Cougar Road.
So you're suggesting a berm along Kugler Mill that would be in the area that you're designating as residential property?
It would stay residential property.
But that's where you would locate the berm?
That's what we would prefer to do, yes. That way we would properly screen
How high would the berm be
it could be up to 8 to 10 feet tall.
with all the plantings on top of
On
it?
top of that, yes.
That though is not part of the application you're
It's
presenting?
not part of the application at this point. What we tried to do is go with what we knew, and so we did that. And looking at keeping it residentially zoned, can we berm that? We probably could, without any implication of changing the zone.
Okay.
What's the depth of the residential area that's
Yes, sir.
proposed to stay?
It's like 140 feet.
Mr. Holbert said it was 140.
Yes.
Is that from the center line of the road?
Center line of the road to the edge of the landscape buffer, correct?
So if you take the road width out of that 20 feet or so?
Well, it's 12 feet, because
12,
it's the center of the road, right? So you're looking at 128 feet of grass to grass, yes.
Grass to grass. Is that deep enough for residential lots?
Well, right now, residential lots can be 10,500 square feet, minimum of 70-foot width. So you might get 5 or 6 lots across that width.
But the depth of 128 feet is deep enough for a home to go there?
Yeah, I mean, there are other types of homes you could do. I mean, we studied in many ways where you can do cluster homes, 0 lot lines. Those are probably more dense, so we didn't want to, we planned it many ways, but at the end of the day, we had to leave enough room for a residential home to be done, and we've done it.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Mr. Merrill, thank you. Is there anyone else for the applicant who wishes to speak and add anything?
Yeah, I'm Mike Kibicki with the developer. I just wanted to, reiterate, with the residential portion there, it was very important to, we spoke to some of the other neighbors and such. It seemed to be very important to them to make sure that, that there was never gonna be any commercial development on Cougar Mill Road. And a lot of the discussions we had, they had said that, they're worried that we're gonna open up the floodgates to future development on Cougar Mill. So what we were trying to accomplish is, to make sure that it stays zone residential, But our preference and what we had tried to propose to the neighbors was we would just take the whole thing, the 128 feet or whatever it is, and, you know, do mounds and landscape and, you know, walking trails and, you know, a crosswalk to get across, and a crosswalk that would, you know, actually connect over to Gallup Road. So you would have a walkable community to get over to Sycamore Town Center. We thought at some point in time that we had a consensus, you know, from the neighbors, but, you know, at some point in time, you know, they said no, you know, they want residential there, they want residential there. So that's the reason we've kept it open here, but, you know, we would be amenable to just saying, you know, keep it zone residential, but we'll just keep it all landscaping and you know, we've offered to donate it to, you know, the township. We would take care of the maintenance on it, but we would donate it to the township to make sure that there's just no way to get any commercial development on Cooper Mill Road. So that's how that came to be. So we have not investigated specifically, you know, what type of product we would put there. If that's what the neighbors prefer, we'll find a product that goes there. If they prefer that it's landscaping and mounds and, you know, access to Kenwood Town Center, we'll do either one.
Okay,
Thank
thanks,
you.
sir. Anyone else for the applicant? Okay, if there is anyone wishing to speak on the application, either in favor or against it, if you would come up and give us your name and your affiliation.
I'll go first here, I guess. Is this actually on, by the way?
No.
Could you turn the microphone on? It's been difficult to hear the other speakers.
Well,
There you go. Now the light's on. Is battery and muting? Yes? Hello?
I can hear you fine, so just speak up for the crowd.
I know there are a lot of, I will speak up, all right. No point in delaying further. I'm Tom James. I live at 5784 Whitechapel Drive. That's in the Charter Oak neighborhood, which is between Kugler Mill Road and Heitmeyer Farms, right behind us this way. I drive past this property every day, twice a day on my way to and from my office here in Sycamore Township. I've been one of the group of citizens who's been meeting with Mr. David Kubicki primarily to talk about this project and about trying to make it workable for the neighborhoods and still let them make use of their property. And as he said, there have been some movements toward consensus, some away from consensus on that. He's been working in good faith with the neighborhoods, certainly on that. But this project, as proposed, is unworkable.